I don't know this person in question, but I can quite believe it. I mean, I do know that people on Earth are often used to help people less fortunate on lower spheres. For instance, you see, one thing invariably, the Earth world is much nearer, much more in harmony, if I can put it like that, with the lower spheres, because after all, the Earth world is very materialistic, and the majority of people in it are only concerned with materialism. That doesn't mean to say that they're necessarily evil, although there are many, and there's many evil conditions prevalent in the world. But it is quite possible that if you, and I know you have over a long period of time, been so interested in this great truth, this subject, that you have been helped from this side, and that you have been taken to various spheres. Of that I'm quite sure. You've experienced a great deal. And I do know, because of what you have learnt and what knowledge you have assimilated, that there will be no likelihood that you will enter into any of the lower spheres, only, as I say, of your own free will. It's quite feasible, and I can quite realize that you've done a certain amount of what we term rescue work while yet in the body, and in consequence it will have helped you to, when you come here, to progress, and you probably won't have the need or desire to enter into any lower sphere environment again to do such service or such work. The point is that a lot of people do feel the need, the desire to do this kind of work, but I don't think somehow that you will feel that desire within yourself to do any more of it. I think, quite frankly, if I know you, not that I'm suggesting that you're selfish by nature, but I do know that you'll be so unhappy when you come here among your musical friends and your music and your relations, your mother and father and brother and so on, that I don't think for one second that you have any desire whatsoever to go down into the lower spheres, unless it's sheer curiosity to see what kind of music they have there. And I'm quite sure that if you do, you won't like it, because it's bound to be totally unlike anything that you admire or like.
Yes, but it would be interesting, you know, Doctor, to realize the different grades.
Well, my dear, I can assure you that there wouldn't be much gained by it, because if you want a good idea of what music sounds like in the lower spheres, go to the Albert Hall to a modern concert. You won't be far out. If you want discord and disharmony, if you want noise and blast, well, go to hear some concert by a modern composer.
Yes, no, I don't want to, thank you very much.
If you want to go through the Wagnerian hells, well, it's entirely up to you.
Well, he was a wonderful, he was very descriptive about hells and so on.
I think he must have had a very personal touch with them.
Yes, I think so. That's why I like him.
I think he's rather typical of his nation. Well, that probably sounds very unkind, because there are many kind German people, but the warlike spirit of the German race seems very much in evidence in his music, but it doesn't alter the fact, of course, that he also wrote very lovely melodies, and I do know that he is a very advanced soul here, and his music has great depth and great power, and I shouldn't pass unkind references to his work, although sometimes I feel just a little bit in tune with you when I listen to your conversation, but I never could stand Varden at any price.
No, I can't stand him.
You know you do ask me some questions, I do so want to answer them, but I do find this dearth of words. Oh dear, how can one explain some of these things to you?
Yes, I know, but you needn't explain them absolutely explicitly, because I can sort of read between the lines. Try to, anyway, although I can't picturize anything on the other side, really.
But I suppose it never struck you.
Yes.
I know your interest in music brings this before, but it's never struck you that we have musicians who have developed or brought into being, as it were, on this side, who when on Earth hadn't the slightest indication of music in themselves, never had any opportunity or ability even, perhaps, but over here have developed those wonderful gifts of music and are great musicians in their own right.
Are they?
Yes.
How does that happen? If you don't have the latent gift, perhaps they...
Well, I think that happens. What I mean is that from your point of view, since I refer not only to you, but to the average person, they can only conceive, as it were, as something being inherited or being born with one or developing with one in the material life. But of course that is really just a rather foolish assumption, because after all said and done, a person doesn't necessarily have to be gifted in certain ways on your side, not to be gifted on this. There's such a thing as a law of recompense. I mean, for instance, many people in your world who have to turn their hand and become chimney sweeps or something quite depressing, have no musical education, no musical background, and as far as one can judge, have no appreciation. But that is lack, not within themselves in a sense, but lack of opportunity, lack of environment, right environment and so on. The point is that because a person isn't born with a musical appreciation or musical development on earth, doesn't mean to say that they won't necessarily develop it in some shape or form over here. And I have listened to music written by or composed by musicians here who, when on earth, had not the slightest interest or knowledge of music at all, which gives you great hope, considering that you already know something about it.
My goodness, it does. That's my chief aim when I get there.
Then again, people are under that wrong impression that their first existence, their first awareness of consciousness of life is on earth, which of course is not so. How do you know if you didn't exist before you were born into the earth world? I would go as far as to say that life has always been there in some shape or form. It hasn't necessarily always registered in the material body.
Then there's no beginning, then there's no end.
Well,
is there?
It's perpetual motion,
yes.
Perpetual life. I don't think that, you see, you can only judge a beginning when you can see it start. But it doesn't mean to say that it didn't exist before you're conscious of its beginning. The point is that you are conscious of Rose Street because your mother told you that you were born on a certain day, at a certain hour, a certain time, at a certain place.
I say, Doctor, what puzzles me is this. Now, in this incarnation, I have a mother. But in my last incarnation, I must have had another mother. What's happened to all those mothers?
Oh, be generous. You must have also had a father.
Yes!
It's twice in 2 generations you say you had a mother. You don't care less about your father. How do you think you were a miraculous conception or something?
No! But that's what's been puzzling me. Mothers and fathers and parents, for instance.
Parents are of no consequence, in a sense. I don't mean that unkindly.
No, I know.
Righteously. I mean the mere accident of birth is surely an accident.
Yes.
After all said and done, millions of people go to bed and children are born. Sometimes they're not wanted, sometimes, if it were possible, they wouldn't be there at all. The point is that often the fact of being born is not desired.
Yes, but if it is an accident, why do the children bear a great resemblance to their parents?
Well, I don't think there's anything difficult to understand about that. I don't think it even matters.
I suppose it doesn't.
After all, it isn't so much what you look like. You can look as ugly as sin. But it's what you are inside you that matters. What your spirit is like.
Business I can't comprehend at all.
Well, you should do.
Well, I feel different things inside,